We're just going to get into it now. We're going to just go through. So this is kind of symbolism. This is the caterpillar. When we set off on the trail in the desert, I want to say there were thousands upon thousands just everywhere. We sat down on a bench to eat one day and they were all over me. And I was gently pulling them off. Some people were not as gentle, but I noticed how insane it was and how many there were. But to me, it was a symbolism. Like there's something there. So noticing the beauty. It's not just the skyline and the mountains. Sometimes it's taking a narrow focus on what you see. So if you guys want me to stop, I'm just going to kind of go through it. But this is the first 100 miles. It goes by very quickly. You think it's going to take a long time. I also soaked my feet. This was another thing somebody taught me on the trail, that your feet do so much for you. So it is sacred to honor them. So anytime there was not a creek for me to soak my feet in, I brought this little collapsible, it was actually, it's supposed to be a sink to wash your dishes, but I soaked my feet. So that's how I use that. Yeah, more symbolism, the butterfly. Again, desert. This is Robert. He was a professor of art in Texas. Fascinating person. Again, you meet people and they teach you so much. He didn't last very long. He's definitely struggling. Then you meet tons of people on the trail who teach you a lot about yourself, but also you recognize if you are running from something in your life, that trail will send you home. Like, you're either there on a mission of self-discovery, but if you are running away, it has a funny way of sending you right back home. Because all the people I met on that trail that were running from something, mainly themselves, the universe sent them home very quickly. So part of the reason that I have this guy on here is growing up, I always loved skeletons. But this is the first day that we ran out of water. So the reason you can not hike past June 1st, technically May 31st is the last day, is that the desert, all the water dries up. So the group of us that started out late, it was dry. So there were lots of places that when we got to the water, it was gone. So this particular day, we went 8 miles without water. I ran ahead because I was trying to see, one, if there was water where it said it was going to be, and two, this house that this gentleman was not at but opens it to hikers. I was hoping to go get him and potentially see if there was a way to either take water to people or whatever. Anyway, the water was there, thankfully. It was the first time running out of water on the trail. It was the first time that I was like, maybe I can't do this. This is the real deal, you know? But thankfully there was water. I carried water to some people and we were fine. We slept that night and I told everybody that night, if this happens again, I'm not going to do this because that's the worst. It happened the very next day. We had to cut through the trail and go through a part of California that you see in horror movies. But we made it to a house where we all told each other if we made it there, we would all share the pizza that they had, pizza and soda. So some people are trail angels and they will open up their house to hikers. And sometimes they just have a section of their house that is just open, that has showers and food and beverages just to support hikers on their journey because they believe in what we're doing, because for everybody it's different. So after, and it's those moments always arrive in your darkest hour and you realize, gosh, the world is a beautiful place and it wants you to succeed. This was McDonald's. This is something everybody talks about on the trail. I do not eat fast food, but all of your rules go out the window on the trail. But this was like a place hikers go and, you feel nasty and gross and wet and dirty, but they know. So that was amazing. So Amanda, who I showed you earlier, she came and met us in the McDonald's parking lot just to cheer us on the trail. And then there's Way, obviously. So we spent a couple hours in McDonald's hanging out with Amanda, and then we continued on our journey. This is further along with Federica, and then this was going to be probably this was one of our first mountains that we climbed, which was awesome. Again, League of Nations, we called ourselves. That plant is actually as poisonous as poison oak, and it actually comes out after a big fire. I do not remember the name of it, but I do remember that it felt like Dorothy in Wizard of Oz, when you're just like, wow, it's so beautiful, and it's like, it's asbestos. But anyway, it was not good, but it was beautiful to see. So beauty of animals. Like, I find animals so incredibly beautiful, and this spider was sitting, this is actually the grooves of a table. People are like, how big is that? Not big at all, but it's just amazing when you see these creatures around you, and how beautiful is that? It's just stunning. Love animals. Trail magic, somebody along the way, Coke and Rice Krispie treats. Now where are we? Star is for our first, this is meeting Cactus and losing Federica. So Federica, I was super bummed when she departed. In fact, I cried. But gosh, once she left, everything was better. It sounds crazy, but she was definitely a big source of contention in our group. And it's hard because I see the beauty in everyone. And once she was gone, gosh, the morale of our group. So it was hard to let her go, but once she was gone, it was great. So exit Federica, and then along the trail you go across these, are they called petroglyphs? So basically an old network of, this was a big trading ground, and you're walking right through it. So it's incredible to know the history and being back in nature and realizing we're all connected to it. So we are still in the desert, so we're gonna have to hurry up, guys. This example, having to fish for water. This was another time that we got to water and we couldn't reach it. So we had to reach down into, it was kind of covered, so we had to reach down and fish water out. Fun problem solving. More trail magic. This is Cactus. Fascinating fellow. I found him laying in the center of the trail. I thought he was passed out or dead. He was just sleeping. Just really fascinating person. And I realized why my father was always so frustrated with me growing up. Cactus was definitely, his name was Cactus on the trail, definitely sent for me to recognize, gosh, I can really empathize when my father was so frustrated with me. To be so pig-headed and wanting to do things your own way when you're like, dude, you're making it so much harder than it needs to be. Incredible lesson to learn. That's why that star is where it was. We hiked sometimes at night. I was okay if I was with a group of people. Sometimes it was scary. Again, always animals. This is another night. Way and I were so exhausted after hiking all night. We made it to an area where we couldn't walk anymore. We threw our stuff down and cowboy camped. And as soon as Way and I laid down next to each other, we had woken an ant's nest. Neither one of us cared. We just laid there. We never got a single bite. We just literally laid down out of exhaustion. They were crawling all over our faces, all over our stuff. Didn't get a single bite. I think the ants were literally like, these people are tired, whatever. They're not threatened by us. And we never got a single bite, but we both looked at each other and were like, I'm done. So that was really cool. Tehachapi is where I got my first heat stroke. That was the lesson of recognizing that my whole life I'd run on this idea of my mind will will my body to do it. And this was the first time that was not the case. This was the first time my body was like, sorry, mind, we're not we're not able to do this. So it gave out, and that Tehachapi is why the star is on there. So that was learning to listen to my body. These gentlemen are all men that grew up with my father. I would never know these men or ever have a reason to cross their paths. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just our paths would never cross. But because of these gentlemen knowing my father and hearing that I was on the trail, they opened their house to me and my trail family. So getting to know them is just, it's this beauty of when you begin to honor your quest, people start to show up, people that you may never have met. So it's really just stepping into your power. More cactus and way, more creatures. Well, gosh, so this is a water source. This is a luxury water source because it's easy to filter. Sometimes you are digging out mud. This is kind. Some people put water out for us because they know we will run out of water. Wow. This is Kennedy Meadows South. Yes. So this is right before the Sierra. This is the end of the desert. So now we are about to get into beautiful country. This was the first time Wei and I had a horrible storm. It came out of nowhere, but I told Wei, I think we need to set up our tents. I think a storm's coming. We put up our tents and we barely got our tent done and inside, and it torrential downpoured on us for about 2 hours. It was wild. But anyway, that was the first and only time there was rain. The very last day Wei was on the trail, which it was different for me because I stayed on longer, it rained. But other than that, it was, we were lucky to have not a lot of storms. So this is the other lesson that I will impart on you because we will run out of time because that's just the way it is. That's how we don't plan. But like the lesson for me was recognizing that I wasn't necessarily going to get this time back. And the idea of doing 20 miles every single day and really pushing yourself to do the miles versus I really wanted to enjoy life. I really wanted to enjoy this trail. I didn't know when I would have the opportunity to do this again. So it was a struggle for me for a while, but I finally decided to let go and let the universe kind of guide where I was supposed to go and how. This is another example. Here is where I felt like I was having a heart attack. It was altitude sickness. I wanted to override it and say, nope, we're getting to Mount Whitney because this is the date I wanted to do it, even though I had just made the date up or made it significant a couple days before. So we went back down and did it the right way the next day. And I ate a whole pizza and a burger. But when we finally went back up, isn't that so sweet? We met some really incredible people who basically cooked for us, and we really enjoyed our time with them and hiked with them. They made bomb sandwiches. I don't even remember their names, just the kindness that they showed us. More creatures. Hiking with friends that we made, not on the trail, but enjoying time. This is the beginning of learning night photography. This is where it's dark enough to where it's a 3-second exposure. So stunning, right? Continuing on our journey, this is the bear can. You want to keep your food in it because the bears will will find it. Okay, now we're getting close to, this is Mount Whitney. So this is the base, getting ready to go up Mount Whitney. This is a luxury bathroom, so you photograph it. So nice to not have to dig. This is a marmot. They are thieves. You have to guard your things because they will climb in your backpack and take. This is Wei. This is a cool photo of her. Yeah. This is up Mount Whitney. This is about a day's journey off the trail, but 100% worth it. We conquered it. Largest peak in the lower 48. 100%, if I had the opportunity to strip my clothes off and be on the water, I did it. There's nothing like it. It is like incredible. Gosh, to me, there weren't many lessons here other than to just slow down and absorb the beauty. Thank goodness for John Muir and the people who protected this incredible land, because, I mean, it's just incredible. And this is just the beginning of the Sierra. I mean, and I just grabbed the fastest things I could, but we would be here for 3 days going through these photos. And, I've burned through this is learning how, from another person asking, how to take better photos with my iPhone. That is literally, you steady your phone with some rocks. Once it's steady enough, it'll do a 30-second capture of the photo. So that's how I can capture beautiful stars like that. Wow. And then the water's pristine and clean and clear. And I swam. Way did not care for swimming, but I did. So I swam anytime we could. Deer and animals were always outside of our tent. That was not common. I thought that was common for everyone, but people said that animals weren't usually right outside their tent. So yeah, lots of animals and lots of beauty. All right, so this is my favorite. One cool moments. I was hiking by myself. Way had stayed back, and I walked up, and this baby deer came towards me, and we just kind of stood and stared at each other. And after about a minute, I pulled my camera out to take a picture of him, and we chatted. And if that had sound, you guys would hear how I talk to animals. That deer. This is the John Muir hut. This is 100%. If you have the opportunity to stay inside these, you should. Incredible. It's really hard. We're not going to make it through it all. I tried, but it's really hard to narrow down 5 months and 2 days in such an incredible. I never in my life thought or knew. If you would have shown me some of these pictures, I'd have been like, that's not in California. Wow. But it is. There is a whole world out there. But yes, this was a common occurrence, and Way took that picture because she felt that people should know that I wasn't wearing anything. This is the thief. So they 100% they know where the food is, and they find it. They are also, I think, one of the only carriers of the plague now. So that was a little like, ooh, okay, well, good to know. So yeah, I feel like we're gonna have to get more of this later. But does anybody have any questions? I can kind of just keep pushing through.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Nicole.
What was your trail name?
Ha. So it's actually kind of funny. It was Mayo.
Mayo?
Yeah, because it was the one thing that I had tuna most of the time, and I would take mayo with me. So I would put it in the creeks at night, and people thought that was really funny. But I really liked mayonnaise, so that was my. And thankfully, it was gone because it can get really gross if you don't eat it fast enough. But I did eat it fast enough. Jennifer?
Well, a couple, but okay. How did you keep everything charged? Your phone and stuff.
I took a charger with me that was the size of a brick, and every time we got into town, it was so heavy. It was probably one of the heaviest things I had, but I needed it for my phone because of all the photos that I took.
What about, how is the trail marked? Is it clearly marked?
So no. Well, some parts it is, but then there are parts where you can easily get off trail, easily. But thankfully, there's an app called Far Out that's satellite based that you can basically follow and see yourself on. I don't know how Cheryl Strayed from Wild did it. Like, I commend those people. Like, that is amazing. If you had to use an actual map, because my brain does not work that way. But
did you have anything to charge solar?
I had one. It just they don't work as well as they're advertised. At least the ones we had that were light enough to carry. Yes.
I would like to know more about your experience with fire.
Okay.
You were in the middle of a forest fire or wildfire.
There was a fire, yes. We should not have kept hiking, but we did. But there were fires. Let me see if I can.
How did you know about that? Because you saw smoke, or was there?
Oh yeah, it was hazy. You know, you can smell the fire well ahead, but it also gets very, very, very
But
hazy.
you didn't have any intel.
No, we didn't. We sometimes would see things posted on far out, but sometimes it's kind of hard to gauge, like, well, is it really as bad as they're saying? Which, you should obviously listen, but we kept going. And thankfully, like, the area that we were in was not, it was very smoky and it was past. But yeah, it's a serious thing. There wasn't anywhere that they said you shouldn't or can't hike, but it was just like, hey, you should be aware. We made it barely through Kennedy Meadows South before they closed the trail for any more hikers to go through. So that day that rain came was the day after that they closed the trail and said, you can't hike this section anymore. So the other thing that was really cool about that was that I was able to through hike all of California. A lot of people that year in 2024, Northern California had some of the worst fires that they'd had. So a lot of people didn't get to make it through hike. So they either jumped further ahead and continued on in Oregon and Washington, or some people just went up to Canada and then hiked the opposite direction. Way and I were fortunate enough to get through and through hike all of California. By the time we got to Northern California, 2 days prior, they had just opened it up to say that you could hike it.
You could conceivably have walked into the zone, the fire zone, or no? Was it being monitored enough that people would have kept you out?
I feel that it's kind of hard to say. There were some helicopters a couple times.
Okay, very good.
And then I do know that people told us there would be people on the trail that would tell us. If there was somebody on the trail that told us to stop, we would have stopped.
Okay.
This is the beginning of the fires, which is why I felt like it was a skull, so I took a picture of it. But I think what's really cool is I met someone on the trail that talked about how depressing it was that everything was burned. And, we had people who were like, we skipped it because of how ugly it was. And I thought that was really disappointing because for me, it's part of life. And sometimes everything has to be burned away in order to make new growth and something to grow stronger. So for me, I tried my hardest to find any way possible to capture that beauty because it is a time. Let me find. So here, this is my favorite. So this is all burned. And I would not have been able to capture that photo if it had not been burned. So there is beauty in all forms and all stages. And sometimes you just have to find it and recognize that it's there. So the branches and the leaves were burned off, but now the stars shined brighter at night. So,
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, Gail.
Did you ever read John Muir before, during, or after your fantastic journey?
Thank you for asking that question. After.
Yeah.
I started reading some of his work after the trail, just because it changes you. Once you're out there, you're not the same person. And it gives you such a new perspective on life. I mean, it really is an honor to do what I was able to do. But also, I mean, that's really, I have this guide to Carmel now, and really that was born from the trail. Meeting people on the trail, sharing food with them, hearing why they were hiking and what they were doing and what brought them there. It really opens your eyes to just how connected we really are. And yet we feel so distant because everybody's kind of in their own silos. So I feel like after getting off the trail, I started to become more observant to the people around me. I remember going to Costco the first day off the trail and being like, oh, like, it's so strange because it's like you're not awake to it, but it's like I walked through Costco and it was like a shock to my system because you see these people who are just like, you know, and it's like, what are we doing? You know, because for me, that trail was about giving myself time. But now I'm at the grocery store and I'm like, let's get in and get out, you know? But the people that are just going along and like grabbing cheese puffs and these things where I'm like, are they even thinking or are they just on autopilot? That was a huge shock to my system. So it really caused me to start writing. It caused me to start asking questions and just talking to people all the time. Because everybody you meet knows something you don't. And they'll open your mind, and it's just your job to find that beauty. So that's how I created the guide. It was this idea that I came back, and Sausalito was a very difficult journey for me to get that project done. But I realized, you know, now, and it's actually while I was putting this presentation together this morning, because I had asked myself, why did I stick it through when it was so bad working with some of the people there? I realized that had been the place in the Bay Area that I chose to go to before I left on the trail. So I felt this sort of like closing a chapter of like, at one time this served me. At one time, this was the energy and the place that brought me here. And now I'm done, and I now realize that that place no longer serves me. And I can close that chapter and say, great, I honored it, I accepted, and I recognize I have been here, and now I can let go and go here. So that was another, again, it's crazy. I started writing a book, and I stopped because I realized it's great that I got some things out, but I also realized that I need time to let it all settle. I'm not trying to just put something out. It's just like, okay, here's that first draft of all the information on the trail, but like now it's time to sit and process and think about, what does this mean to me? And that's really been the source of creation for me, is being in this place of surrendering and saying, I know that there's more to life, and I'm willing to step back and say, okay, show me. And it's crazy how the world will show you. I have met some incredible people in this community, Eddie, Jennifer, Nicole, Katie, and everybody is teaching me more ways to open. Katie is teaching me how to open my heart. You know, my brain and my heart have been open, but now checking into my body is just, it's crazy that when you heal and you start this journey of letting go of what was never meant for you, it begins to open up a world and a universe in front of you. And it is full of light and wonderful, incredible, creative people. And it's just been an honor to now be awake for all of that. So thank you guys.
I'm just curious about how you were able to hike so strongly from the beginning. Had you been doing any, you told me yesterday that you did walking since you were a kid, but do you think that's why you were in such good shape, is that you walked so much?
I think the walking was part of it. I also know that in my head, I thought I was going to do 20 miles every single day. But being that I was open to receiving guidance and saying, okay, somebody came in my life and said, hey, maybe you should slowly ramp up. I thought, well, gosh, doesn't hurt to take that advice, because again, if I decide it doesn't fit or these people aren't my people, I can just keep walking. So being open to receiving that energy and slowly building up. I mean, we were doing like 8 to 10, up to 14 in the desert. And then the Sierra, you slow down because it's just up, down, up, down, up, down. But it's this sense of, and that was the struggle. Do you go as fast as you can, or do you just let it flow naturally? And I'm taking so many photos, and that's really, I mean, I never had a blister on the trail. What? Ever once. Never once had a blister. And I really attribute that to being open to saying, hey, I'm receiving and listening to where I'm at, you know, even though in my head, I'm like, I could do this. It wasn't about, you're doing it, you know, it's that, you know, am I a backpacker? No, but like I am. it's this idea that we're always on this journey of becoming. So if you want to believe you're not good at something, you're right. But you're just a student at this very moment. And whether you pick up a paintbrush or pick up a pencil or pick up a backpack and go hiking, you have to start somewhere and recognizing that it's okay. You know, in my head, I told myself, John, it's okay. If this isn't for you, you don't have to do it. And who's really going to know? Did you really fail? You went out and tried, but I didn't fail. And I think more people should trust themselves and take that leap of faith, because you will not fail. It's just, I mean, it's a lesson and you learn. And yes.
John, an incredible journey, and thank you for sharing it with. I'm curious, if you were to do it insanely again,
Take me.
what would be the lesson learned? What would you do differently?
That's a really good question.
I mean, what you're carrying in your pack, or different kinds of
I feel like
gear?
it all served me for what I needed it for in that moment. You know, it's really hard to say. Would I do it again? Gosh, it would be a completely different journey. And it's funny. The other day I'm reading more about Carmel, and I read about Jack London and how he sailed around the world. And now I'm like, I want to sail around the world. Like, it's been this thing in the back of my head that, like, I did this. And now it's not even about checking it off. It's just like, gosh, I did this. If you would have told me when I finished the trail that I was going to have a guide / magazine within a year, I'd have been like, you're nuts. Or, you know, like, what do you mean? But boom, it happened. And I realized that when you start to open yourself up to the world, everything is an opportunity. Everything is there to support you. And when you can trust and feel into what feels right, you'll know. And there's people who are there to support you on that journey. And so going back and doing it again, it's hard to think about that, because it's just like, maybe, but I don't know that I would do anything different. The one thing I would think about is that no, I don't know. I feel like it would just be a very different, I guess the only thing I would say is what I did, which is go into it with an open heart and recognize that it's brand new, and just approach it with your heart and love, and know that what is meant for you to happen will happen, and that's enough. Yes.
How many days did you say it took you to walk?
I think it was like a total of 155, but it was I did a daily thing where I would put my photos in a folder of like my favorites of the day, which is interesting because it's like practicing gratitude. Every day, finding the beauty in what you experienced. So from May 24th through October 26th is when I crossed the line into Ashland, which is interesting because I told myself early on I wanted to hike California. And I thought I set it up that I was gonna do the whole trail, but ultimately I accomplished what I originally in my soul told myself I wanted to do.
Did you journal?
I started journaling, but photography was the journaling for me. I started writing, and by the time I was set up, I was so tired. And I would sleep, but I would look through my photos and organize my photos and really think about what that all meant to me.
Did you have a book with you?
So I did not. That's not true though. I did listen to Wild while I was in the desert, because everybody was like, have you read that book? Have you read that book? So I thought, okay, I'll read that book. So she skipped the desert. And I know that tons and tons of people do skip the desert because they think it's ugly. They are wrong, but it's a lot of people do. They just skip the desert and do the Sierra on. She did that. I understand why people do it, but the desert was the beginning. I feel like the desert dries up and I just feel like it dries up the things that were never meant for you. And then when you finally get to the Sierra, it's like you begin to recognize like what no longer serves you died in the desert. And you begin to hike these mountains to a higher version of yourself. I know that sounds very woo-woo, but it really is. Like I really believe that this journey really is a pilgrimage, and you are recognizing that all the things inside of you that were never meant for you, you can let them go. You know, and this, people ask me like, are you gonna finish it? I mean, I could, and maybe at some time in my life I'll feel called to do it, but what that experience was for me in that time was enough. You know, I don't feel like it's going to, I don't feel that it's like, oh, I have to finish the whole trail. Like, what I needed to do, I did. And if I feel called later on in my life going through something else to work through it, I will. But for right now, I feel so accomplished and set for what's next. You know, I'm so inspired by really everyone in this room. A lot of you I have not met yet, but it's like I am inspired just sitting around people. You're here for a reason. Eddie has provided this space for creatives to come together, and there's this energy, that power. It's the same energy and power of why I always used to walk through art museums when I was younger. It is literally, art is the altar. It's the offering you make to the universe and the act of creation. And every time a piece is created, that is energy. And that energy pulls you in. And I never understood that fully until hiking the trail and thinking about what is it? And meeting all of the artists in this community and what art is. It truly is. It is this creation and this energy you put into the world. And art museums have an enormous amount of power in them, and it is that energy and that beauty. I mean, that's why cathedrals were adorned with art, from the stained glass to the ceilings. All of that is energy and power, and it's incredible. Art is so powerful, and it really is. It is always will be part of humanity, but also the future. Always, 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 no matter what. People are afraid of AI, that it's going to take, but it's that AI can never create and be be part of the human condition. It will never understand it, so it will be an enhancement, but it will be a medium for people to create. Eddie's gonna have somebody here to talk about the videos he creates. It will be a tool to create a form of art, but it will never, like, art is separate. Like, AI may create art, but it is just a new medium of self-expression and creation and power. It's exciting.
I'm so curious, when you finished, like, going across their finish line, was it relief, or was it, like, were you sad? Were you excited? Like, what did you
It's so
feel when you
crazy.
finished?
By the time I was ending the trail, I felt this enormous amount of gratitude, but also just like, I'm here. I don't have to be anywhere else. And this is it. Like, I have walked into myself. And I just remember I met these two women who drove me into Ashland to meet Way. And I just remember thinking to myself, you know, as they were getting back in the car, I was like, you know, can I have a couple minutes? And they were like, yeah. And I just remember like standing on the trail and getting down on my knee and putting my hands on the earth and just like thanking nature, thanking the earth, thanking the process, the journey. I'm gonna cry. But like, you know, it's not about walking to escape, it's walking to. And when I finished, it really was this sense of like, I am here. And this may be the end of hiking the trail, but I have arrived at myself. And and Ashland, I mean, I've been drawn, Ashland has been an interesting place I've spent some time in. And I always knew I wanted to at least stop for the Shakespeare Festival. I missed it, but just that year. But it was this sense of like finishing, and it was the same day that I crossed the California-Oregon border that I arrived in Ashland. So it really was the final day. I had walked my home state, I had done it. And it was just this idea of, I'm gonna keep walking. that everywhere I go, I'm going to create and I'm going to make beauty and I'm going to surround myself with the people who get it. And I'm going to, see who I can help turn the light on. And that'll be enough. And my purpose has been to create and to build. And it's very strange because you talk about history and you think about the future, and it's all connected. The history, the present, and the future are all, the future is also history. I know that sounds silly, but it's like honoring what once was to the present and the future. It's all connected. And I've always been drawn to history, but again, through creation, it's all a spectrum. And I'm not even certain what I mean in this very moment talking about it, but I know that just like the poem that I wrote when I finished the trail, I didn't even know what it meant when I wrote it. I literally wrote it and I was just like, okay, that's done. Got that out. And then it's when I revisit it. I mean, I read it twice this morning because I cried. And I was like, oh my God, it's your own words. Why are you crying? But it's what it brings up. Yeah. It's the connection to people, and my whole life working in tech and, thinking that, if I went to Harvard and Stanford, I would be good enough. I would have figured it out, but it's not. And none of those things, those are just things. It was a journey of recognizing that you're right where you're supposed to be. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Yes.
So, sort of one of the themes I keep hearing is you trust the universe, you surrender, and the right person will, show up at the right moment and guide you through. So, it sounds like you already had that before this trip. But was it more strengthened, or did you have an aha moment, some kind of spiritual shift during the trip? Or was it at the end, or did you experience anything drastic?
It's interesting. I feel like it's a great question to ask. Drastic. I think there were just these moments, like the dehydration. It was recognizing that all of these things that happen in your life, illnesses, it's a reflection of your surroundings and what's going on. So it's really a question of, what's my environment? What's going on? What am I doing? What is supporting this that is happening to me currently? And it's about stripping that back. So there really wasn't any, I feel like the aha moments were the heat exhaustion and the heat stroke and passing out. So Cactus, another reason, I was so annoyed with Cactus because of how stubborn he was. Now, granted, that is me looking in a mirror, 100%. So again, lesson there. But Cactus wanted to hike with me because Way wasn't going to hike this next part out of Tehachapi. And I was so focused on everybody else, making sure everybody had what they needed when we were leaving the hotels, that I forgot that every morning I down 2 liters of water just before I leave. Always. Every morning, just because. I didn't do that day. I was worried about getting Way over to Mojave so that she could catch her ride, that I could get Federica on where she needed to go, and Cactus and everybody else, that I forgot to drink the water. And that day, I had 7 liters of water, which is still a lot, but it was 117 degrees, and I was hiking 17 miles. And Tehachapi, in the Native American language, which I do not know which one, means steep climb. I thought it was into Tehachapi, not out of, but it absolutely was out of Tehachapi. So I ran out of water. And what's crazy is that it was 10 o'clock at night when I had my heat stroke because my body was done. And what's crazy is I made it to the water source and I started filtering my water, which freaking seems like it takes a million years when you're freaking dehydrated. But I saw that water pouring and I started to get real dizzy. And I was like, you got this. So then I chugged some water and did it again. And I passed out straight first in the creek. And if Cactus was not with me, I probably would have died. And I had the worst cramps for the next 2 days, 36 hours, I think. But you feel every minute of it. But that, again, it's those moments where you realize, like, boy, one, I could be dead, but two, this is showing me where my thinking is hard. Thank you. Now I'm remembering the other thing I wanted to mention. Anger and fear. When I wrote my book, started writing my book, I start the book with how angry I was when I could not find the trail. Because sometimes the trees would fall and you can't see the trail. I mean, I was making up. This is the creative part. I was making up swear words. I was so angry, screaming into the void. And Wei was like super calm and collected. But I just remember being so angry because I couldn't see. I didn't know where the trail went. And Wei just kind of like, there was this stream that I could have easily just walked through, but I didn't want to get wet. All these limitations I had in my head. And here comes Wei out of the corner, and she just walks up to the water and just walks right through it and over to the other side. And I'm like, ew. And like so incredibly angry. But I'm like, it is that simple. So I walked with her and start to cool down. But I started to realize on this journey that anger and fear are a guide. Anger shows you what no longer works and where your limitations are, or the limitations you've put on yourself. Fear shows you where you need to grow and where you need to be open to receiving new information. So when you start to recognize that your fear is based on these ideas of whether it's failure or embarrassment or heartbreak, that's exactly the medicine you need. It's where you need to go. And I think that's what's so beautiful about artists is like you're literally creating something and putting it out, and it could be rejected. You know, people could hate it. But it's this idea of living raw and being yourself. And I think that's the other thing that's going to be great about AI. AI is going to take the jobs humans were never meant to do. And I believe it's going to raise us to another level of consciousness of actually, I think we'll discover new emotions. I think we'll discover things that people will realize like, wow, you know, since the Industrial Revolution, people were cogs. It was like, don't show your emotions. Don't be emotional. And it's like, now we're going to have time to be emotional because AI will never have emotions the way humans do. So that will free us up to be the most human we can be. And I think it's going to be a huge renaissance. And I believe artists will be the forefront of it because they are the visionaries. They're the ones who feel, they have the pulse on society, and they'll be the ones who create what's next, as it always has been, but it's going to be a superpower now.
Here, here.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if you touched on your time here in Carmel at all. What drew you to Carmel in the first place?
Oh, it's interesting that you answer that question. You asked me that question. So I knew I wanted to create this guide. I built a guide for Sausalito, and I realized with the enormous amount of anger that it wasn't working. So I had this next thought of, I know this is a great idea. I know this is cool. I want to take it to a community that I think it will resonate with. And Carmel was the first place that it popped into. I was actually looking for you. I went to Nicole's gallery, and that's how that whole thing happened. Was I came to town to find somebody to say, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? And I went to Nicole's gallery. And I remember walking by and seeing her walk out and having this energy of I was getting pulled in and then seeing her and being like, that's not the same dark and moody place I remember. And then walking past and being like that was so weird. And I know she could feel it. And that was so strange. And I thought, well, why don't you just go back and introduce yourself? Because you're freaking here. So I introduced myself to Nicole, told her what I was doing, and she's like, this is really cool. You should go talk to Jennifer. And then Nicole took me to Jennifer, and it was like this energy started to build of like, I wasn't certain I knew what I was creating, but I wasn't certain what it was going to be. And then it was like finding out, oh, Joaquin's just next door to Nicole. And then I think it was one of the days you were closed because I would come on Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays. So it all kind of like took off. But I was drawn to this community because of the creatives and the artists before even realizing it. And once I built my first guide and worked with certain people, I took it to Sausalito, and just like I expected, it took off like wildfire. But I took a step back and thought, okay, now everybody loves it. They want to work with you. Who do you want to work with? Who do you want to build and create with? And it was the artists. So that's where this next edition is all about arts and culture. And I feel the most alive doing it, because I never considered myself an artist, but now it's like, wow, I am, but it's in a different way. It's like using your gifts to highlight the beauty you see in the world. And there's no shortage of it here in Carmel. So thanks for the question.
Oh, no. Thanks for the answer.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think everybody can relate, this, his journey. I think everybody, whether you start a art gallery, like who would do that? Or start a business, or, you just kind of do something you believe in, not knowing the past, just going into this unknown world and just give it a shot. And then the right person will show up and give me a guidance, like a Bob showed up, and Jennifer, we had a talk, and Gail and other people. I paid you with wine, but but anyway, so people just show up and give me the guidance. So and having this wonderful place with wonderful friends, and so it just everybody's kind of walking the trail of your own, and have this community to help each other. So
That's right.
yeah, wish to us.
Yeah.
Everyone here.